I'm here with David Thompson, and we're going to talk about Jordan Peele's most recent film, Nope. David, why don't you go ahead and give us a little introduction, a little bit about yourself?
My name is David Thompson. First time on this podcast. I am a sports reporter for the USA Today Network, covering the Carolinas, college football and basketball, stuff like that. And I am a low-key, really big media and pop culture fan. So this is just something that I do regularly, but that's not recorded. So this is fun for me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so David and I met at ACC Kickoff through our mutual friend, Jonas Pope, who is a friend of the pod already. He was on a while ago, who we talked about some Marvel hot takes, and David was like, I want to be on the pod. And at first I thought you were joking. I was like,
No.
he doesn't actually want to be on the pod.
No. I'm that guy. If I say I want to do, I'm gonna want to do that, and mostly because Jonas's hot takes were terrible, and I was like, I want it recorded. I wanted my rebuttals recorded, and I wanted the world to know how much more correct I was than he was, because I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, you recorded this take? This is awful.
We'll do an episode that's like you, me, and Jonas, so that I can be like the facilitator of that.
You're gonna need it, because me and him cannot stay on topic at all. It would be like it's the greatest of ramblings, but it's not for everybody.
Well, luckily, or maybe unluckily, I'm sure it would be a good conversation to have. But today we're not talking about Marvel. For once, we talk about Marvel a lot on this podcast, Marvel and Star Wars and Stranger Things. But we're talking about Nope, all capitals, by Jordan Peele, the most recent installment in his kind of, I don't know, I guess tenure as a filmmaker, but really new movie. It's only been out a couple weeks. You saw it before I did, and you were kind of like, this is something we could talk about. And I was like, yeah, let me make sure I go see it soon. I went and saw it on Sunday afternoon, I think, this past weekend. When did you see it?
I saw it the opening weekend, actually. And I'm one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it is because the people who I went and saw it with, while they enjoyed it, we went and got like pizza and beer afterwards. I was like, okay, so can we just talk about? And they're like, we seen it, let's move on. I was like, but and I ended up disengaging from whatever conversation we had halfway through, so I could start reading reviews, because I was like, either we're gonna get into this or I gotta get into it somewhere. So I've been holding on to this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, the debrief post movie is like the best part of a movie sometimes.
That's my favorite thing. I'm like, cool, so what did everyone else think?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't trust my opinion half the time.
So then let's get into it right away then.
Yeah.
What, coming out of the theater, what were your thoughts immediately after seeing Nope?
The immediate reaction was, yes, awesome, badass. He nailed it. This is a triumph. I loved it. It was somehow met my expectations while subverting my expectations, while getting me really excited about going to see movies in the theaters and just seeing something that I consider to be art and something that creates a discussion. So immediately I was like, this is great. What else? What did everyone else think? And then come to find that I was kind of in the minority of someone who was just overwhelmingly loved it. It was kind of like, I felt like it was really nitpicked and kind of torn apart a little bit. People were like, it was good, but it wasn't quite what I thought. And I was like, I thought it was great, to sum it all up.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much the same way. I mean, I think coming out, I was still like, okay, Get Out is still clearly his best. I didn't feel like this topped Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
I very much enjoyed myself. I recently have gotten really into Letterboxd, which I don't know. Are you a Letterboxd person?
Mm-hmm.
It's a film reviewing app. You should get into it. It's very fun.
Okay.
It's like film reviews, but a lot of people do them in a very cheeky way. So they're very satirical film reviews, and it's kind of fun. But anyway, I've gotten into a Letterboxd headspace where the entire, anytime I go to the theater, the entire movie, I'm just thinking what am I going to write on Letterboxd afterwards? Okay. And all I could think to write, I was like, I can't say anything snarky about this movie. It was just a genuinely good movie. And just like you, I wanted to have discussion about it afterwards. I was like, there are so many things that you have to dig and pick apart, I feel like, but like even just like seeing them, I was like, oh wow, like there is good stuff happening in this movie. So before we get a little bit into the picking deeper and like digging deeper into things, surface level cast performances, great. I mean, Keke Palmer, I've always loved Keke Palmer, but I thought she was phenomenal in this movie. What were your thoughts on kind of the cast and how they portrayed these roles?
Well, you know, straight from the beginning of the movie where, you know, you've got the scene with OJ and the horse and he's trying to explain what to do and he just can't handle the moment and Kiki slides in and says, all right, here are things to do. I was like, this is her movie. This is her moment. She was made for this moment. And I'm one of those people who came into this not knowing too much about Keke Palmer, but realizing immediately that she's a star. So almost like the way I felt watching Get Out, I was like, whoa, Jordan, what am I forgetting his name now? Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. I'm stuck with, you know why? It's because I've been watching so much Key and Peele lately. But the same way that Jordan Peele, how I felt about him after Get Out, which was like, wow, this is a new moment. And that's how I felt about Keke Palmer at this. I said, okay, whatever she's doing now, I'm buying it. And throughout the movie, you know, but I also think Dana Foulier was just so understated and such a great juxtaposition to what she was doing. And I really believe that brother sister kind of, you know, that role. And I just thought they were great. And I mean, we're used to seeing Daniel and these films with Jordan Peele, but Keke was, you know, I think she'll be back in some newest installments for sure.
Oh yeah, I think he'll return to her. I think more like big shot directors, because I guess like this is really like her first big film role, because I mean, like, I know her because she was like True Jackson VP on Nickelodeon, stuff like that.
Wait, and I missed that whole. I think that's a generational thing, because it's not my Nickelodeon that I grew up. I was like, because I was going through IMDb and I was like, I don't really see anything that I would have come across. I will say this: yesterday I was watching Password on NBC, and she was the host, and I was like, I would not normally watch that, but I was like, oh, it's Keke Palmer. Okay, I'm in. And she was great. I was like, anything she's doing right now, I'm in. I'm totally in.
Yeah, I'm excited for her little, I'm sure we're going to see a lot from her. But yeah, I agree about the dynamics. I thought like Emerald and OJ like totally bought the sibling dynamic there. I think sometimes like directors and screenwriters can like overdo sibling dynamics. Like they try to make them either like polar opposites and like they're just fighting all the time. But like there really is like, especially when you have like two siblings of different genders, there's like so much of a push and pull, and like so much of your relationship like depends on how old you are. Like I have a younger brother, he's 3 years younger than me. We spent most of our lives hating each other.
Yeah.
But now that like I'm 22 and he's 19, like our relationship is like so much different. And I think that was really clear. Like you could tell they didn't always used to get along, and now slowly like they're friends, they're business partners, but he still gets annoyed at her because she's so bubbly, and that's just not who he is.
You know, it's funny because I have the same dynamic except for opposite. I have an older sister who is 4 or 5 years older than me, and it was the same way growing up. It was just you know, she kicked my ass until I was big enough to kick hers, and you know, that kind of thing. And I really found myself relating so much to the Emerald character because it was like that sort of, because you're not really sure where you fit in, you're a little loud or a little boisterous, you know, you kind of like that's sort of your role. And I thought she did that in such a way where I felt it, that she had become this person in a sense because she wasn't accepted by the father. She couldn't do the horse training that OJ could. And I just really enjoyed that she found her niche, you know, but as they got older, maybe they may have not appreciated each other, but you know, they really came together in this really insane moment. But it was cool. I enjoy. I think that's what makes these horror films, these thriller movies so good, is the character development and making you really actually care if this person's going to get sucked up into this animal UFO like type thing. Because if you're not like, get them, who cares? But I mean, this is, you know, you cared about these characters quickly, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, it's worth mentioning, obviously, Stephen Yeun and Yoon's character, Ricky Jupe Park, who, I mean, interesting. We can get more into that whole side of the storyline, because that was the one part that, like, for the first half of the movie, I was kind of like, what is going on here? And then there was a moment that it clicked for me, and we can kind of talk about that. But also Brandon Perea, who played the Fry tech guy, this is like also like his first big role, and like I mean he was good. I feel like people maybe overhyped him a little bit. Like I had seen some stuff about him going in, and people were like, wow, Brandon Perea, breakout star, and like he was good. I thought he had some good moments, but
it's not somebody I when I was reflecting on the movie, I was like, oh, that guy was amazing. I mean, he was good comic relief. You know, I loved all the Fry scenes, but I loved, how he he was just sort of showing up and be like, what's going on there? His curiosity was really funny. But yeah, I thought he was a good person bringing it. I actually really liked, was it Michael Wincott, the Antlers Wolf, the cinematographer who came in. I love, like, you have to have that in any movie where it's, we're gonna get the greatest shot, the gravelly voice. It may be kind of like a basic tenet of movies, but I love stuff like that. I want like the older guy who's, it's like the Jaws scene. It's like, hey, and the devil's eyes. It's like you gotta have that guy who like kind of scares you a little bit. And I think he was great.
Yeah, and he just kind of threw like a final wrench into that last quarter of the movie, like where it was like this new dynamic you were all of a sudden dealing with that made things so much more intense. So yeah, I really appreciated his performance too. Before we move on from characters, one thing that occurred to me as I was leaving the theater, do we think OJ is like named after OJ Simpson? Not in the sense that like Jordan named him that, but like in the film, do we think like his dad named him after, like the timeline like matches up, right?
It is possible, like where they live, who they could have rooted for, what his dad's probably a little old school. Maybe, or maybe he's just a big fan of breakfast. We never really got. We didn't know. Like, is his full name Orenthal or James? Like, yeah, I don't know. I never OJ. We could dive deeper into that of what that means and all that kind of things, but I don't know. I'm not sure. To be honest with you, what do you think?
That was my gut reaction, was because it is like kind of a unique name. Like you don't hear a lot of people.
I don't think Jordan Peele would have put that in there without having something like in the house. There was like, a picture of OJ Simpson or a poster or something. I mean, this seemed like a family that was really cared about one thing, and that was horses and the movie business. But I mean, the movie business could have. OJ was a movie star. Dang, I don't know. It could have been. I wonder, did he name it after OJ, the football player, or the movie star, or the murderer? Who knows? I mean, who knows?
Did he meet OJ? Like, did the dad?
I mean, he could have. I'm trying to think of any OJ. But I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one. I when I heard it, that's what I thought, but I was kind of like, it might just be, might have just picked a name. I don't know. But I'm sure. Yeah, OJ and Emerald. Yeah.
Had to bring some sports. Yeah. Had to bring some sports into it somehow. Yeah. Just real fast.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
But okay, so let's do some quick rankings before we break things down. I like to rank my movies. So we got a couple categories here that I gave you. Screenplay and originality. Like, what would you give it out of 10? Like the overall idea and the way it was written.
I think the screenplay, because I've never seen a movie like that, but I've seen movies kind of like that, and it definitely followed. It had a lot of nods to Spielberg and Shyamalan and a lot of those things, and I think obviously he did that directly to be like, hey, I really appreciate what you guys have done. Particularly Spielberg, I think we saw that a lot of Jaws references and things like that. But I think what he does such a good job of like leading you one place and taking you another. So I don't know what a 10 would be, but I'd say a 9 probably for both. I think that's what I liked about it the most. And the thing that I didn't understand the criticism about was how original it was. What I think, if this was his first movie ever, if we didn't have Get Out and Nope, then I think we say, this guy is incredible. I think we're having the Get Out discussion. You know, it may not be as deep on like racial and political lines and stuff like that, but we're saying no one's making movies like this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much content going out. So when there's content that shows up in movies that show up, they go, huh, that was different. Like that should excite us. So just on that, I mean, I'm 9s across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I would 100% agree with the idea that like if this had been his first, like that whole thought. I was gonna say like to the point of like you've seen this before, but you haven't. Like he like something Jordan Peele does really well is like playing into tropes, but like subverting them, especially like at the last minute. And like I think a great example of this is from Nope is when you have the scene with the quote unquote aliens in the barn when OJ first encounters them and he thinks I was so scared. I wasn't
ready. I wasn't ready. I was like, no, wait, that's him.
I was like, don't show me. I don't want to see. My off topic kind of, but I used to be terrified of ET as a child. Like watched the movie, had like weeks worth of nightmares. So like I felt like I had a little bit of PTSD in that scene where it was like they're popping out and I was like, oh my god, like I actively do not want to see this. And then it was fake. And so then like after that happened, I was like, well, are we gonna see the aliens at all? And then obviously you've seen the alien the whole time because the alien is the spaceship. It's just the alien.
It's not a spaceship.
It's not a spaceship. It's just a creature.
Floating, beautiful, massive. We didn't really get an answer to exactly what it is, but that's probably better too.
Yeah, it's Jean Jacket. That's what they named it, right? Randomly.
Great name.
But yeah, so I would go like 8.59 for screenplay and originality. What about cinematography?
Because I didn't know we could do points.
Sure, yeah.
All right, okay, well now I'll be a little tougher now. So cinematography. So I know through listening to way too many podcasts, reading stuff that he used Hoyt van Hoytema, which is Christopher Nolan's guy, you know. And so I think that what I liked too about this movie was that it's a lot bigger than its other movies, you know. And I think one of the things that I realized I was doing during the movie that I don't know if I've ever done was like it had me like I'm in the back, but my head is craned. I'm looking. I spent the entire time looking for this UFO. I mean, it's the way it directed you where to go and what to do. I don't know if I've ever really done that. Even with UFO movies, you're never searching for the UFO. It's like it comes to you. You're like Independence Day. You're like, that's a big ass thing in the sky. All right, I got it. But this time I'm like, wait. I remember like going to my girlfriend and be like, I saw it. I'm like, I mean, it was. I don't know that much about cinematography, but I just know it was just powerfully done. And then of course bringing in like having a crunch wrap supreme of a cinematographer inside of the beautifully cinematographed movie, I thought was such an interesting thing and kind of an interesting conversation about like digital and analog. And I know that kind of gets into like the deeper themes of the movie, but I found that really interesting to bring in so much about smaller bits of technology and about things like wanting to use the handheld crank camera and then the camera that ended up being in the well that got the picture, while ironically he's doing his biggest film, that he's never done anything like that. And I found that really interesting, just to kind of like, maybe it's a criticism towards Marvel movies and going back to storytelling and character development, but he's also like, hey, also I'm gonna show you some cool ass shit, which I like cool ass shit. That was great.
Yeah, well, I hadn't even like thought about the parallel between like the fact that like non-electronic cameras were such like a big theme in the movie, and then that's like, but that's really interesting. The two things I was going to say about the cinematography is, one, I kind of want to pay the money to go back and see this in IMAX, because did you know it's the first horror film filmed in IMAX? Like it's the only one to ever be filmed in IMAX.
Well, because they did film. I heard that they filmed with IMAX cameras, but I didn't realize that they did that. I mean, would you call this a horror film?
Yeah.
because I like that the lines are blurred, but like I'm not sure what if this is a horror film, if he's creating his own genre
It's
almost.
like a thriller. I feel thriller more than horror.
That's
Yeah.
more what I'd put it. A thrilling horror, horrifyingly thrilling. You know, because I never felt scared, but I caught it suspense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what his movies feel like to me. I'm just like on the edge of my seat waiting for something to happen. He did that so much in this movie, which is why, you know, you talked about the false aliens from the ranch. You know, I was just like, wait, already? Like I wasn't ready. I needed like an hour to like sort of prep. I barely had some popcorn. You know, I was like, it was a lot. I was surprised how quickly, but then it was like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah, his movies, I think they like, the best way I can put it is like they make audiences uncomfortable, but I think each one of his film makes people uncomfortable in a different way. And I think I'm still trying to like wrap my head around about what exactly of this movie like made me so like, oh, like pit in my stomach, like uncomfortable to watch, I guess. But like, I mean, like Get Out, like the obvious, like you just see so much of society reflected in it that it's kind of like
Right.
makes your stomach drop, but you're like, oh, this sucks.
Right. You're like,
why?
Shit, my bad.
Yeah. You're
Like,
like,
I'm not gonna call it
oh,
it's not a white guilt film, but I felt some white guilt.
yeah, yeah. You have to a little bit. But the other thing about this,
vote for Obama again, though.
the other thing about the cinematography is that they apparently filmed most of the night scenes at like the Haywood Ranch in the daytime, and then just color graded them to be night. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, I don't even know how you do that, but
no, I don't either.
Yeah,
I give cinematography a 10. That's like
yeah. I mean, I don't think you can argue. But I mean, it basically was a conversation about cinematography and future of films, and I mean, I don't think that's like the deepest things, but I definitely think that's what he was talking to, was the development of technology and a little bit of like the loss of actual theater in film.
Yeah.
You know, it's just more like, you know, like I think when I went and saw the newest Doctor Strange movie, I had this revelation. I'm in there. I'm like, why am I watching these movies? I'm officially getting nothing out of it. I enjoyed phase 2 or whatever it was, and when we got to Endgame, I was like, this is great. I'm entertained. But then we just got to this point where I'm just like, we're not doing anything. And I was like, I'm not going to go see Thor: Love and Thunder and all this other stuff. I'm not watching the stuff on Disney. It's just like, I don't care anymore. And so it's just nice to go to the theater and care about a movie, to be interested by it. I don't know, to be challenged a little bit is nice, I think.
Yeah, to not go in knowing what you're gonna get. Like you go into this movie and you don't know what's going on.
No, not at all. I mean, I remember being in the theater before this at some other movie. I think it was Maverick Top Gun, which was great. Which I was thinking about that today. How like that is pure entertainment, and it was an awesome movie. But this is like, it didn't elicit a discussion. There's a consensus. That was awesome. And you're like, sweet, that was entertainment. This is art. This is subtle and interesting and reflective, where like Top Gun is just like, which is great, which is badass. But those are the two kind of movies I want to see now. I either want to be purely entertained, or I want to be like, So.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rapid fire through these last two categories and then get into themes, though, because I think we're gonna have some big discussions here. So cast performances, I'm going like a 9. There just was like, it was such a small cast. Like
it was. It weirdly felt like such a big world and such a small community. You know, even I think the most people we ever saw at one time was the scene where they're trying to coax it out, and he ends up sucking up everyone. And I think the death toll was like 45 or something like that. But Keke Palmer, I'm going to give her like a 9.6. I think she's the star, but I also think OJ's the anchor. And then I think Steve Ewan was just awesome. And then I want to give a lot of credit to the little kid actor, and then whoever was doing the monkey, the chimpanzee. Incredible work. You know, that's the best. That's the best sort of movement thing I've seen since like Gollum. So yeah, and besides, it's really there's not that many people to go through. Then and I love seeing Keith David, even though he obviously did not stick around to like OJ's dad. I think my guess is so Otis Hayward Sr. So O must stand for Otis.
Otis Jr.
Boom, I cracked the code.
OJ.
Look at that. Thank you, IMDb. You're welcome. Theory done. Not a football player. So yeah, I'm gonna say an 8.9. I just because I don't want to say a 9.0 because I like to be difficult.
And what about the overall score of the movie, factoring in every second?
Going from 1, the worst movie I've ever seen, like Showgirls or something, then 10 to the best movie I've ever seen. Where am I going to put it?
Yeah.
8.2.
8.2.
Maybe 8.1.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would go up if I saw it again.
That's always an important thing to consider is it worth going back, especially nowadays, is it worth going back to the theater to see this movie? That raises it a bunch.
I would go see it. I mean, because you were like, hey, I'm watching Us again. I was like, ooh, I should watch Us. Or maybe for the first time. And rewatching it, knowing how it ended, I think that's the difference between like M. Night Shyamalan movies, is that like I'm never going to watch Sixth Sense again. Because I know you said, well, what's the point? Watching Us again, I noticed so many things that he did to let us know what was going to happen that we never realized. And then like seeing it the second time, you're like, ooh, I'm in on the secret. Like, oh, this is kind of fun. You know, you feel like you're in on the joke a little bit. And I think I would feel the same way seeing that again, you know, knowing where this movie's going to go. And I think it would be that much enjoyable. And that his movies are rewatchable, I think put them into another category where some of the other ones aren't. You know, these other type genre films don't hit the same way.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think I would give it an 8.5, probably. 8.5, 8.6.
Well, okay then. So you like it more than me, I guess.
Maybe. I've also probably seen less films than you.
I am like 10 years older than you.
Yeah, I was going to say, you are older than me. You've been around a little bit longer. Yeah, you've got to experience more cinema.
If I didn't know that Keke Palmer was on a Nickelodeon show, I aged myself. It's weird feeling like the old guy. I just am not that guy. You partied with me. I don't like you.
You don't act like an old guy.
I think you said that to me the first time we went out together. You were like, you have a very youthful presence. And I think I told like 20 people that. I was like, guys, I don't know if you know this, but I have a very youthful presence.
You're very youthful, David. It's great.
That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stay young. It's hard.
So let's get into the themes of the movie, and therefore we can kind of talk about some scenes. Yeah. I was literally like, I already mentioned the Letterboxd thing. I was on the edge of my seat at the end of the film waiting to write my Letterboxd review, but also like I was like, I need to write down like every single thought I had about this movie, and like the first 4 things out of my brain onto like the notes app were just these like big themes. Like I was like, what is he doing with all of these different things? And I mean, like the 4 that I put down, and I think the first 3 are really tied together, and the 4th one is kind of just out there, but exploitation, sensationalism, animal instinct / like natural instinct, I think is in there. And then not learning from mistakes, I think is kind of like a background, like a secondary theme in the movie. Would you like agree with all that? Is there anything else that really like popped out to you?
Oh, I think exploitation and not learning from mistakes sort of fit into the same category, actually. I mean, I think we see, so, I think back to the scene where, and I forget the monkey's name, the orangutan.
Gordy the monkey.
Where Gordy literally goes ape shit and maims, maybe kills some people on during the show, and then sees a young Stephen Yeun and instead of kills him, kind of gives him a little dap. And I've read certain things that if you look at it, you can see that that he couldn't see his eyes, and maybe that's part of it, because you do learn that if you don't make eye contact with this. But what I think it's more going into the exploitation is, I think if you look at who that character was, it's a child actor. Who's more exploited than a child actor, particularly a child actor of color? And I don't know how much credit we want to give this ape, but I kind of felt like he sort of knew that, like, this guy's not the problem. And then Stephen Yeun literally uses this traumatic experience, although it obviously has freaked him out, but he's letting people stay and probably have sex in this weird room. That's a ode to everything that's happened for, like, what was it, like 50 grand a year, and literally doing the exact same thing to this whatever UFO in the sky, this animal in the sky that he saw done to the character, to the ape. And I don't know, I just he did not learn from that, and ended up obviously being his demise. But he literally did the same thing that he saw that was done, and it's just like, I don't know, it just was very exploitative.
Yeah, so I had mentioned that there was like a scene that, like, I felt like everything in the movie kind of clicked for me, and this is probably when it clicked for a lot of people, but that scene when Jupe, like, goes and, like, is putting on the show and is about to have the alien come down and suck the horse out of the air or whatever, I was like, he literally watched an animal maul a bunch of people, and now is, like, putting this animal on show the same way that monkey was put on a show. Like, two, he, like you mentioned, he was a child star. He was exploited himself. Like, he experienced all this stuff, and now he's just turning around and exploiting other people, exploiting another animal, like, whatever. Like, it was like that scene, I felt, said, like, so much about, like, honestly, more about the themes of the movie than, like, any of the, like, main characters did. Like, that scene alone really, I think, drove home all of these things that we're talking about.
Well, and you look at the what's, like, after the monkey barrage, I don't know, monkey massacre. The first scene you see is that small clip of their great grandfather riding on a horse. The first scene in Hollywood is a black man riding a horse, a black cowboy. And then you look at the next 100 years of Hollywood that was so exclusive to black actors, to anyone. It took them so long to break in, and even still, it's like this. We're in 2022, and it's a huge deal that we have a prominent black director and writer who's making movies for black actors that are now hugely successful. And it's like, it's one of those things, when they say, like, hey, Civil War was only 160 years ago, and you go, oh shit, or whatever, however long it's been now. But it really is just kind of, it's just one of those big themes that I think he, definitely wanted to put in multiple ways. I feel like a big disconnect with the movie people felt was this monkey scene, and then Steve, and exactly where it fit in. Because it's like, you go back to Us and you see the rabbit scene at the very beginning, and it comes back. We come all the way back there. But I don't know. I think maybe that was a little bit of a misfire, maybe just not quite hitting that. But I personally really liked it. I thought it was the right life cycle for his character, and the way that he was destroyed by the same thing that he watched other people get destroyed by without learning that lesson.
Yeah, well, and, like, to the point of, like, it not tying to the rest of the film. I mean, obviously, that's how I felt after the intro scene, like, the very first time you see it, and that's how the movie starts. When you come out of that, you're kind of like, why? Like, what? Like, when they go back to it, I think there's more there. And also, with the coming out of the rodeo massacre with Jean Jacket, that's when OJ figures out that Jean Jacket is the alien and not just a space. Like, it's from that massacre that happens, right? And so, like, I think there's, like, an interesting parallel there of, like, you have this monkey who people have been treating like a person, like an actor, like something that it's not, and then it reveals its true nature, its animal drive to fucking kill things. And then versus, like, they've thought this thing in the sky is a spaceship, and then there's that, like, moment where something happens and they're like, oh, that's not it's actually just an animal, and it's drive, like has its drive to kill. Like, I don't know, like
trying to profit off of something that you don't quite understand, trying to tame something that's wild.
Yeah, tame the untamable. The other kind of like exploitation part I thought was interesting was when the filmmaker shows up, when they invite the filmmaker. It just felt so slimy that he shows up and he's clearly not there to help them. I got that impression from like the second he showed, like he's literally, because the only other times we see him throughout this film, he's just watching videos of animals killing each other, which was so weird to begin with. And then he shows up and he's like, oh yeah, I'll be in on this. But like the second he thinks he can do something better for himself, he leaves and he does that. So he basically just exploits OJ and Emerald for this connection they have to something bigger than
for the perfect shot.
Yeah, for the perfect shot. And it was just like, God damn.
I mean, as a journalist, as a fellow journalist, did you just not feel like seeing the whole, like I just felt like it related so much to what I'm told to do on a daily basis, and how it is really about I have so many conversations about get the content. It's not about doing journalism, really. There's get the content, and if you can, do some good journalism. But it's more like, what do we get? How do we get the clicks? How do we do the things? How do we drive this? And it was just like, and I mean, that's such a central theme in this movie, right? It's just like, okay, we're going to, it's like, oh God, not that there's an alien. It's like, how do we make some money off this thing? You're like, oh, we could save the farm. Like, how do we get the shot? And it really is. It's like, it shows in our society now. It's not seeing is believing, and showing is believing. You have to prove to like 1 billion people on the internet, and then they'll decide. You can't just be like, oh, I saw an alien, it's cool. It has to be. And what I thought about a lot was like, okay, let's assume like we have like aliens come down, right? And we freak out for a minute, but like, how long does it take till we start getting like our first meme? Till it's like, oh,
not
aliens,
long
like,
at all.
Monday be like, and it's just like, God damn, it's like we can't take anything seriously, and I don't know. It made me just feel a lot of things about journalism.
Like to that a great example of that, like literally like how quickly people make memes out of not great things happening, which I don't know, maybe an alien invasion wouldn't be the worst. We don't know. I'm not gonna say all aliens are bad on this podcast. Like we don't know what's going on. But I remember back in 2020, I don't even remember what was going on, but this was pre-COVID 2020. This was like the first couple days when there was like something happened where there was like a major threat, not a major threat, but there's like like people thought World War III was going to break out, which happens all the time nowadays. But this instance sticks out in my head because within like hours, I was on a train. I was overseas. I was in Belgium. And so I was on a train. And so I was just doom scrolling, and people are like, World War III, the draft's going to start again. And it's like, people were just making jokes about it. And I'm like, if this really were happening, like legitimately happening, would we be making these jokes about it? I don't know.
But yeah, but we would. Especially what's happened in the last few years within my lifetime and your lifetime, it's like, God damn, the only way to get through it all is a little bit of levity. We got to meme it up, man, and be like, oh, okay, well, this is terrible. But I mean, I was just watching the Manti Te'o documentary.
Oh, I haven't watched yet.
Oh, it's incredible. But just how quickly he went from a hero to like the biggest meme ever, and then hearing from him about how it's just like his life is destroyed. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and I think a lot of this movie does talk about just like the power of technology and the power that we give it, and also like how it will suck you up and it will kill you. It can destroy you. And I think I was thinking about the scene a lot, how where when this thing would hover over, you would lose power, and it made me think about how technology and electricity and all this and social media, how much power it gives to anonymous people. These floating things that for some reason we care about them, but the moment this happens, like it's, you know, the moment you can let go of that, there's no power left for them. And I don't know if that was the point, but that's kind of how I took it. It was just sort of like it took away the power of communication, and maybe that is something that we thought it was a good thing, and it might be our undoing. You know, we don't know.
Yeah, see, I didn't think that with the alien. I can see where you're coming from. But what about when the TMZ guy shows up on the motorcycle wearing a reflective helmet? You have no idea what he looks. It was like screaming like voiceless, nameless, faceless like entity on the internet who's going to exploit everything.
Well, for me, you know, the reflective helmet to me is like the best and the worst thing that ever happened in journalism was because of technology, anyone can be a journalist. Mm-hmm. So the reflective nature, I'm like,
journalist.
Yeah, a journalist. Well, anyone can provide information, can take videos, and it ended up being a terrible thing. But sometimes when it's disasters and whatever, it's nice. You know, anyone can provide information. But I love the reflection, because I looked at that just as like, oh, it could be anyone. And I also love he's broken in half, and he's like, I need the shot, and it's just like, yep. That's what it feels like, and it really, you think about the depths that people go to, sometimes even to get a cute picture on Instagram. The first week when I moved to Asheville, I was with a woman near a waterfall, and she asked me to take a picture of her while doing a handstand near the waterfall, and I watched as she tipped over and fell over the waterfall, fell 25 feet. Luckily, she had a couple beers, so she felt kind of okay, and she was all right. But it was the scariest. I'd been there for like 96 hours. I'm like, I just watched someone die. This is the scariest thing. But it was just to perform, just to have a performative moment, you know. And it's just like, but also it is just like, I love that it was like a TMZ dude just showed up out of nowhere. But there is a lot of pressure on those guys for sure.
Yeah, I have to read. I hate to draw attention to Logan Paul, but I'm sure you saw the big thread he posted about this movie. And one of the tweets that just cracked me up is his fourth point he makes. He says, same note, man on the motorcycle. Why was his voice deep and robotic, framed to be an antagonist who'd have a grand reveal? Mystery solely for the sake of mystery is confusing and leaves too many open ends for a viewer trying to invest themselves in a storyline. And I was like, dude, you're looking the point in the face and not understanding.
And just missing it. Just missing it. Does Logan Paul not realize that this movie's kind of about him a little bit?
Exactly. Like, this movie is literally about people like you who go into the woods and like film shit or like make things online. And anyway, I just thought that was funny.
But I hate so much that I like vaguely care what Logan Paul says. About anything. Like, why do I get famous? He's just a male Kardashian, but like even lesser. Like, he's done, like, what has he really done? He made some YouTube videos. I really don't I don't understand it. I think I've watched him box a little bit, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay, so I have something to hit really quick that I think I am potentially alone in thinking, because I got home and I listened to my pod, like you mentioned, like listening to the podcast right afterwards. I listened to the Big Picture pod from The Ringer, and then I texted some friends. And what did you think about the ending with OJ? Like, were you under the impression that he had survived?
I mean, when they showed him on a horse looking triumphant, absolutely.
Yes, but may I introduce a counterpoint? Which maybe I'm reading.
Let's hear it. Yeah, let's hear it.
Maybe I'm reading far too much into it. But it was something about him being on the horseback, backed by like really bright light under a sign that said "Out Yonder," that just screamed to me like she's looking at him on the other side. She's getting a glimpse, or she herself is about, like, Emerald is, like, I don't know why Emerald would die, but like the "Out Yonder" sign and the light, I was like, is he not dead? Like, plus, like, you think he's dead because he gets eaten by the alien. Like, why would he survive that when no one else has?
Because he's the hero of the story. I think this is a classic overthink. And
probably.
while I appreciate it, I don't really say, and
imagery.
And the imagery, but Donnie, I mean, I think this was just like a little bit of a nod to like a Western, and you know, it's like having a strong Black heroine, you know, like a Black John Wayne, and just the way that he looked and coming out of the moment, as you know, I think sometimes because of his previous movies, people, because so much is open for interpretation, like, oh, anything could be anything. It's like, no, I think he survived, and I think it was kind of a happy ending, and I think that's just what he intended. I mean, you never know, but it's interesting. You see, I'd love to see this. When I go and watch it again, I'm gonna really think about this theory.
Really pay attention.
I'm like, no, he's dead. OJ is dead.
He's dead.
The juice is done. The juice has been squeezed.
Out yonder. He's out yonder, and with a big bright light and his horse. Anyway, you mentioned the other films that Jordan Peele has done, Get Out and Us. Where do you think Nope? What's the ranking of the three of them?
Okay, so I was listening to some other pod that was not as good as this one, and someone said something that kind of pissed me off. They're like, what I felt this movie was missing was sort of just the peeliness of it all, what we've come to expect. And I'm like, this is his third movie. This is the third movie that he's done, and each has stood on its own, has been a triumph, and has put him in upper echelon. But he's so young and early, and I think to say like, oh, this is gonna be a Jordan Peele movie, this is what he does. I think why this movie is so important is he doesn't want to be labeled as a Shyamalan, where it's like, okay, where's the twist? Okay, we're waiting for a certain thing. I don't think he wants to box himself into a certain category, and I think he's more talented where he doesn't want to do that, which is why he didn't do the same thing here, which is why I think there was disappointment. But for me, I was waiting for that, and that it didn't come, I enjoyed it even more, knowing that like, okay, there's growth here. Like what I like most about his movies is it's unexpected. And sometimes the unexpected is not getting what you expected, right? Yeah, as I said that out loud, I was like, that's a very stupid way to say that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, if this would have been another kind of like, okay, then you'd be like, all right, well, this is what he does, but he doesn't. So I am not at a place where I want to rank his movies, because I don't think everyone's on the podium. There's not enough.
Yeah.
Like with Spielberg, you can be like, there was some weird shit over there, and da-da-da-da. Like, I gotta wait. But I would say, I think Get Out was his most like well-rounded movie, I guess I would say, or most renowned. And I'd say Us was his scariest movie, his most horror. And then I would, easily. And then I'd say Nope was his most ambitious. And and that's what I like about it the most, is that it was a little different, but it was also on a whole new, like they filming the thing in IMAX, doing new film tricks. I mean, we haven't even talked about the blood scene coming down. That was iconic. I mean, that's iconic.
Crazy.
Even like insane. And I love that so much. And even, I mean, as someone who's claustrophobic, for me, the scariest moment was when they're all kind of stuck in the esophagus area and they're screaming. I mean, that was incredible. And he does a really great job of, the scariest things, right? Like, why are we afraid of the dark? Because it's what we can't see, and he does a really great job of that. But it's nice to also know, like, when we have these moments of, all right, we're gonna bleed down on an entire house, and we're gonna turn this thing into a weird, flowy, like, that was spectacular. And for me, I'm like, okay, we're getting into a whole new element of what he could do. So I won't rank him, but I will say this was his most ambitious.
No, I can appreciate that. And since we mentioned the blood scene, I will say the Sunglasses at Night needle drop was
amazing.
Great.
Amazing.
Phenomenal.
So honestly, I forgot about that, but I was like, oh,
yeah.
Go.
I got in the car and I immediately pulled up the like remixed version. I was like, I'm listening to this. But yeah, no.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot about it.
He kind of has
a great job of that.
Yeah, he has like a song. Well, okay, so I've only seen each of his movies once. I watched Get Out for the first time a couple of years ago, Have not rewatched it since, just because I don't know. I'm not like a huge rewatcher of like actual movies. Like I rewatch my shitty trash movies all the time, but like I'm not sitting down to like.
Of course, that's comfort. Yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of does like a needle drop in all of them, because then you got the five on it and Us, another phenom. That's probably my favorite, just because the orchestral version you get in the like climax of the movie.
With the echoes, I was like, oh.
But yeah, that movie scared the shit out of me. I watched that the other night for the first time after seeing Nope, and I was like, "This is." I live alone in a urban area.
Yeah, it's like I see a family of four in my driveway. I'm getting a shotgun.
Yeah, they can take me.
Wait, so real fast, I gotta know what's your trash movies that you go back to?
Well, a lot of the Marvel ones I go back to, which they're not trash, but a lot of people don't consider them cinema. I rewatched Set It Up, the Netflix rom-com with Glenn Powell and Zoe Deutsch in it.
Okay.
It's about journalists. You should watch it. One of them. Journalist. She's like an aspiring journalist, and he's like, it's got like Taye Diggs. It's got a bunch of big names in it. It's very good. It's
journalism in the way that like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is journalism.
Kind of. So like the main girl works at like a sports. She works at a sports journalism place, but it's like sports magazine type journalism. So not like going out and reporting on a beat journalism or How to Lose a 10 Guy. That's a good one. I also revisit the Disney Channel original movies a lot. So High School Musical.
Strikes for the win.
High School Musical. The Lemonade Mouth movie, great stuff.
I've tried to get through all the High School Musicals, and like, I get it, they're not supposed to be great, but like, my God, they just kind of like stopped trying there at the end or something. I don't know what was happening. I was like, can we graduate high school already?
Don't say this. See, this has actually been a hot button topic this week, because the anniversary of the second movie was this week, and people have been all over it. I'm of the camp that the third one's the best, which I've recently learned to be. It's very controversial.
What world? That's like being like, have you seen? You've seen the Mummy series. Did you ever see the Scorpion King? I mean, which what I found out this past weekend? There are 5 Scorpion Kings.
Didn't we talk about this at ACC Kickoff?
No. This is something I just learned. I was in New Hampshire at a Walmart, and they were like, buy the box set of Scorpion Kings. I was like, oh, you mean the Mummy? It's like, no. Scorpion Kings. There's 5 Scorpion Kings. Somehow.
Well, I've never seen any of them, so.
Oh, well, you are missing out.
I guess I'll add it to my watch list.
Do I have a box set for you?
I'll drive to New Hampshire and find it.
Yeah, I know. I'll send you the coordinates to the Walmart. You're gonna love it. So how would you rank the Peele movies?
I mean, I think I would go Get Out, Nope, Us. Though I think like Nope and Us are very close, and Get Out is like Nope and Us are like here, and like Get Out is above. Yeah. Mainly just because I don't know, like I think I'm still processing Us. Like I feel like it's taking a little more for me to like understand what the themes were, which like usually I don't like when themes are super heavy-handed, but like the way that like with Nope, like the themes were clear, but I didn't feel like they were heavy-handed. Whereas Us, I was just scared shitless the whole time, and I was like, oh my God, are there people living in the sewers that are exact replicas of us that are gonna come and attack me? Like, so I wasn't really thinking of like, whoa, what's the theme? What lesson am I getting here besides like, oh, there's a dark side. Like everyone has a dark side, which I kind of felt was like maybe the message.
If we're gonna talk about some plot holes though, in Us, they're like, oh, they wanted to build a tether. It didn't super work, and so they left them. I'm like, really? Who? What was this? Amazon? With Apple? Like, who was like, nah, it didn't work out. Let's just leave all these people in this. Like, bad. There wasn't a meeting where like, we made like, 6 billion people in that tunnel. Should we like firebomb, or should we do something? I just was sort of left out there. But I think that's the general consensus, is that Get Out still stands alone. But I still feel, to my original point, that because of how unknown he was. I mean, the movie he made before that was a Key and Peele movie of a Keanu about a cat, I think. So,
Oh.
so we didn't even know that this was a thing. And so Get Out was like, I remember too when it was like, I don't know what this is about. I think it's a comedy, maybe. I don't know. And then you see it and you're just like,
Not a comedy.
yeah, yeah. I was walking out of the theater and being like, what the fuck was that? That was insane. So, but now that we know what to expect, it's like the expectations are just so much higher. And he is a product of, he's a victim of his own success. But I still think it would just be interesting if we could kind of do the Men in Black neuralizer and just make everyone forget those other movies and then go in. Because I think if this movie standalone, I think, they're talking like, maybe Oscar buzz, maybe, like that he would be this, if it was a different director, they would, just like, oh, watch out for this guy. But since he's just so well rooted already, with 3 films, I mean, that's not many people do that in 3 films. Like, this guy is the guy. I mean, he's our Hitchcock. He's one of those names.
Yeah. Not to put more expectations on him, but to close out the episode here, are there any tropes, plot ideas, genres, actors you want to see in the next Jordan Peele movie? Which I don't think he's announced anything. I don't think we know anything about what a next movie would be. What would you want him to explore potentially?
I would love to see like Denzel in one of his movies. Like just have just have Denzel in anything is really, he's one of those guys who still, if he's in a film, I'm going to go see it. I don't know if I kind of want him to keep going bigger. But part of me thinks like it would be really interesting if he did like, something on like on an actual person, or if he's like, I'm going to tell the story in Rosa Parks, and you'd be like, what? And like, or just something, it would be interesting to see him go, because you look at this and it's like where he started was like, like real people, this real white family, and then we go to this us thing where now there's 2 of it, it starts getting a little bit more out there. Then we're gonna have aliens, and you're like, are we gonna keep going bigger, or are we gonna come back to more reality? Because I think we've actually found that when he keeps it more on earth and more personal and more familiar, that it hits a little bit better. So I just think he just kind of has to decide. To answer it, I don't know, but I would love to sit down and be like, what are you thinking? Like, I'm not really sure where, whatever it is, I'll be there.
Yeah. I have like 2, I guess, separate wish list items that like I don't necessarily think need to go together, but like at some point in his career, I would love to see him do like a heist movie that's a thriller, because I love heist movies, because like if they get the details right and get like the timing, they just keep you on the edge of your seat. And like he does timing and like detailing so well that I think that could be like, and it could be like a heist about like stealing something from another plant, like like it could be like it doesn't have to be robbing the Met Gala, but like there's a lot of possibility there. I think that could be really interesting. I'd also like to see him do something with like a younger group of actors, like Caleb McLaughlin. I think would be really cool to see in a Jordan Peele movie. So just like something maybe with like a younger focus, maybe like following younger people around. I don't know. Maybe that's because I'm a young person, so I like to see
very young. Yeah,
movies that are made about things I can relate to.
Goddamn, maybe an Armageddon, Earth is ending kind of thing.
And an apocalypse heist movie.
Yeah, an apocalypse. Like, listen, the world's ending in 7 days. Can we get the king's jewels? Like,
Yeah. There's lots. I mean, like you said, like he makes a movie, I will be in the seat of the theater. I am officially fully.
He has my money like any other no other director out there. Like I think he's the only one where I'm like, Okay. Yeah. Whatever he's doing. Even I went and saw he was produced the Candyman. You know, he didn't direct it, but I was like, okay, his name was attached to it. And I was like, I'm in. And the Candyman, it was pretty good, but it wasn't, wasn't one of his movies for sure.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. That was not one I made it to the theater for. But
it's scary. But there was a great moment. It was a very Jordan Peele moment where like something's happening in the basement and the woman's like, hell no, and just walks away.
Which was like the whole premise of the name of this movie was when people see horror, they tend to just be like, nope, I don't want that.
No, I thought it though that it stood for not a planet Earth. Is what I was told. Or what I thought.
Oh, I haven't seen that anywhere. I've just heard repeatedly that it's like especially like in like African American vernacular, like nope is like a really common like nope, we're not doing like that. Oh, so like no. Or hell no, yeah.
Well, first, I don't know where I saw that, and that could have been a total bull, but I thought it was not of planet Earth is how he got. I think maybe it had two things, but
yeah, I mean it definitely could be like a double. That's really interesting. Now I'm gonna go look that up and
see
if I can find anything after. Okay, well, any final thoughts? This has been a great conversation, a great way to get back into the podcasting here. Any last words?
No, I think I think we've really run through it. But I do think that journalism is changing, and not for the better. And I think he hints at it just a little bit. But I think it's something good to remember. To I don't know, live in the moment, put your phone down, don't let technology rule you, and be nice to animals, I guess.
Be nice, don't fucking exploit animals. Nothing good ever happens.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Stop fucking with animals. Stop fucking with things you don't understand. Don't look them right in the eye either.